The doctor said it like a sigh, not a warning. This can't go on, he murmured, eyes on the chart. I just nodded, pretending I didn't know what he meant. Maybe I did. Maybe it wasn't about my pulse or my blood pressure. Maybe it was about her. Every morning, I stopped by the same coffee shop before work. Small place, half lit, the kind where the bell on the door sounds too loud. It smelled like burnt espresso and light pavement. She said she liked that smell. She was usually there by the window. Always early, always with a book she never seemed to read. Her name was Mira, and she was in her 40s, maybe mid, maybe late, I never asked. Her hair was tied back the same way every day, loose strands tucked behind her ear like they were tired of falling. Black coffee, right? She asked the second time I came in. I laughed. That obvious. You looked like someone who doesn't want to wait for flavor. It became routine. Me. Her half smiling. I'd find her at the same corner table, the one with a view of the crosswalk. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we didn't. She liked quiet, the kind that didn't demand anything. I'd catch myself watching her hands. The way she folded her napkin when she was thinking, or stirred her coffee long after the sugar was gone. Once, when I left my thermos on the table, she kept it for me, returned it the next morning, washed. Said nothing about it, just slid it across the counter. I tried not to read into it. But silence, when it's shared long enough, starts to feel like something. The coffee shop had bad lighting, yellow, uneven. Still, it made her look softer somehow. Sometimes I wanted to tell her that. But words, when they leave your mouth too early, ruin everything. So instead, I'd glance up when she wasn't looking. Notice things no one else would. The chipped ring on her right hand, the way she rubbed her neck before she spoke. Once, she caught me looking. What? She said, quiet, amused. And I said, and it was the truest lie I'd told all week. That winter, I started coming earlier. Before the rush, before the noise. Sometimes she was already there. Sometimes she wasn't, and I'd stare at the empty chair until she arrived. I never meant for it to become dependence, but maybe it was. Routine pretending to be coincidence. She started remembering little things. How I took my toast, which day I had late shifts. Once, she left a note under my cup, you look tired. Sleep helps more than coffee. I laughed when I found it, but that night I didn't delete her number. Weeks passed. She told me once in that matter of fact tone she had, that she used to be a nurse. People don't really want to get better, she said, eyes on the window. They just want to feel seen. I said, maybe that's the same thing. She didn't answer. Just looked at me like she was trying to remember something she'd forgotten. The doctor's words came back to me a few days later, after another long evening at the shop. This can't go on. And yet, when I checked my phone that night, there was a message from her, you left your thermos again. Want to come get it? I'm still up. I stared at it for a long time, thumb hovering over the screen. Then I typed, don't stop me now, and hit send. She lived just across from the park, in a narrow 2-story house that always smelled faintly of rain and citrus cleaner. When I knocked, she opened the door halfway, thermos already in hand. I told you I'd bring it tomorrow, I said. You'd forget again, she replied, smiling, stepping aside. Come in before the heat escapes. I did. Her living room was small, quiet in the way a place gets when only one person has lived there for years. A teapot hissed softly in the corner. She poured us both some, no questions asked, jasmine, from the way it smelled. You always drink tea at night? I asked. Only when I can't sleep, she said. And when's that? Most nights. She sat across from me, on the edge of the couch, tucking her feet under. The light hit her hair just enough to make it seem like time had paused there, not erased, just settled. There was a framed photo on the shelf. A young boy, maybe my age, standing beside her. The resemblance was obvious. I didn't ask. She noticed me looking anyway. My son, she's studying abroad. London. Oh, I said. He's around my age, maybe. She nodded. You remind me of him sometimes. Something in my chest tightened. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to. We talked for a while, about nothing at first. Work, bad weather, burnt toast. But then she said, almost to herself, it's strange how easily habits become people. I looked up. People. She smiled faintly. You come here every morning. I start to expect it. I tell myself it's the coffee, but She didn't finish. She didn't have to. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat tightened. I took a sip of tea instead. It was too hot bitter. I didn't complain. The silence stretched. Her hand brushed mine when she reached for the sugar. Not deliberate, not apologetic either. Just contact, brief, human, quietly electric. I should go, I said, though I didn't move. You could stay a minute, she said softly. It's still raining, so I did. We sat without speaking, the kind of silence that fills instead of empties. She folded and unfolded the napkin on her lap, eyes fixed on the steam rising between us. After a while she laughed, barely audible. What? I asked. Nothing. Just, it's been a long time since someone shared tea with me without asking for anything. I didn't know there were terms. I said. There always are. She murmured. When I left, she walked me to the door. The rain had softened into mist. She handed me the thermos again, this time full, for tomorrow, she said. I nodded, holding it like it meant something it shouldn't. On my way down the steps, I glanced back. She was standing by the doorframe, arms crossed, watching the rain. I don't know why that moment stayed with me. Maybe because it felt like someone finally saw me. The next morning, she wasn't at the coffee shop. Her usual corner. Empty. The book still on the windowsill, but no coat on the chair, no half-drunk mug waiting for someone to return. I ordered my coffee anyway. Sat in her spot. Waited longer than I should have. By the second day I told myself she was just busy. By the third I stopped going early. Still went though, habit or hope, hard to tell the difference. Then, one afternoon, I saw her outside the pharmacy across the street. She was talking to someone, a man around her age holding a grocery bag, laughing easily. Her hand rested briefly on his arm. Familiar. It shouldn't have mattered, but something twisted in my stomach. I turned away before she could see me. That night she texted, "You've been quiet. Everything all right?" I stared at it too long. Typed yeah, just tired, then deleted it. Typed again. Finally sent coffee tomorrow. Her reply came quick, I'd like that. When she walked in the next morning, I almost pretended not to see her. But she caught me, she always did. Thought you'd switched cafes, she said. Thought you'd switched cities, I replied. Something flickered in her eyes, not guilt, not quite, just wariness. She sat across from me. No book this time. Just her hands, folded, restless. I had visitors, she said after a moment. Old friends. Nothing important. I nodded, though it felt like a lie we both agreed to tell. The coffee went cold between us. I noticed things I hadn't before. How she avoided my gaze, how she kept touching her wrist like a nervous habit. Mira. I started, but stopped. She looked up. What? Nothing. Just. The words refused to arrive. She smiled faintly, trying to fill the silence. You think too much. And you don't think enough. Her laughter came quick, quiet. But it ended too soon. When I stood to leave, she did too. Wait, she said, reaching for my sleeve. Her fingers lingered just a second too long, warm, uncertain. We both froze. She started, but a voice cut through from behind. Mrs. Hale. A young barista stood by the counter, holding her forgotten umbrella. He smiled politely, oblivious. She let go of my arm immediately, thanked him softly. And just like that, the air changed. Outside, the rain had stopped. She walked beside me, not touching, not speaking. When we reached the corner, she said, "We shouldn't." "I know," I said. She nodded, lips parted as if to add something, but the words died there. Then, for a fraction of a second, she looked at me, really looked. And I saw it, the pull, the hesitation, the ache that mirrored my own. If I'd leaned in just a little closer. But I didn't. She turned first, "Good night," and left before I could decide what not to do. I saw her again a week later. By the park bench near the pharmacy. Same one I'd walked past 100 times without meaning to. She was feeding crumbs to pigeons, her coat unbuttoned despite the cold. The late afternoon light made everything softer, quieter. I almost turned around, but she saw me first. "You still owe me coffee," she said. I sat beside her. "I brought tea instead." I held up the thermos. She smiled. The kind that didn't reach her eyes. "You remember everything, don't you? Only the parts that matter." We shared the thermos between us, passing it back and forth like a secret. The park was mostly empty, just the hum of cars, the rhythm of our breathing. She looked tired. Not from age, from restraint. After a while, she said, "You stopped coming every morning. I thought maybe I was bothering you." "You weren't." She said it too fast. Then softer. "But, maybe it's better that way." I watched her hands in her lap, fingers fidgeting with her ring. That simple movement told more than any confession could. "Is it him?" I asked before I could stop myself. "The man from the pharmacy." Her head turned sharply. "You saw that?" I nodded, immediately regretting it. "He's just an old friend," she said, voice low. "We used to work together." The pause after used to felt heavier than anything else. "I'm sorry," I said, trying to sound casual. "Wasn't my place." She didn't answer, just stared straight ahead at the street. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely a whisper. "Do you ever feel like you're holding your breath around someone? Like if you exhale, everything changes?" I nodded, because that's exactly what she was to me. She turned then, eyes searching mine, not for understanding, but for restraint. "You're too young to look like that," she said. "Like you already know what losing feels like." I tried to laugh. "And you're too kind to keep pretending it doesn't matter." Her breath caught, barely audible, the kind of sound that breaks a silence clean in half. The wind shifted. She tucked a loose strand of hair behind her ear, slow, deliberate. "If someone saw us like this," she said, not finishing, "they'd just see two people drinking tea," I said. "Would they?" she whispered. I didn't answer. The distance between us felt smaller than the space of a breath. If I moved an inch closer, it would mean something. Something that couldn't be taken back. She looked down at my hand resting on the bench. For a moment hers twitched toward it, then stopped. Her voice was quieter now, like she was talking to herself. "You don't know what this would cost." "Then tell me," I said. "What would it cost you?" She looked up, eyes shining, not with tears, but clarity. "Everything," she said. She stood, slowly, brushing off her coat. The thermos was still warm between us. I didn't stop her. "Take it," she said. "You'll need it tomorrow." Then she walked away. I sat there long after she was gone, the question hanging in the air. The one neither of us had the courage to ask. What if it's already too late? She stopped coming altogether. At first, I told myself it was temporary, a flu, a late shift, anything ordinary enough to make sense, but days turned into a week. The barista stopped asking if I wanted, her usual two. The window seat became just another chair again. I still ordered 2 coffees out of habit, poured one down the sink before leaving. One night I passed by her house. The curtains were drawn. No light in the kitchen window, the one that used to stay on late. I almost went up the steps, almost knocked. But almost is the cruelest distance of all. Instead, I sat on the curb across the street. The rain started halfway through, gentle, apologetic. That's when I noticed something. "For sale" sign on her lawn. It didn't look new. I just hadn't wanted to see it before. The next morning, I went to the coffee shop earlier than usual. The same barista was there. "You know that lady?" he asked, wiping the counter. "She moved out last week. Said she was going somewhere quieter." "Where?" He shrugged. "Didn't say." Something hollowed out inside me, not pain exactly, just emptiness rearranging itself. A few days later, I found her thermos in my car, the one she'd given me. I turned it over in my hands, thumb tracing the dent near the rim. She used to fill it halfway, saying tea tastes better when it cools down. It didn't feel like heartbreak. It felt life forgot to finish the sentence. That weekend, I finally opened the old note she'd left under my cup weeks ago. "You look tired. Sleep helps more than coffee." On the back, I noticed something faint, written in pencil. I must have missed it before. "Sometimes the cure hurts more than the ache." I tried writing to her that night, just to say something real. "You left the city quieter. I keep waiting for the light in your window to come back on." I don't know what we were, but I missed the sound of a spoon against the cup. Each sentence felt too much or not enough. I deleted them all. Finally, I just wrote "Are you okay?" then didn't send it. The next morning, the bench in the park was empty. The pigeons still came, expecting crumbs. The thermos was heavy in my hand, still warm from fresh tea. I placed it on the bench beside me and waited. An old man sat down after a while, asked if the seat was taken. I almost said yes. I stayed until the tea went cold, then stood, leaving the thermos behind. Maybe she'd come back for it, maybe not. Some goodbyes don't echo. They just stop mid-sentence. It was nearly 2 months before I saw her again. I was cutting through the park after work, the same path I'd stopped taking to avoid remembering. The bench was empty, as usual. But then I noticed someone kneeling near it, setting down a paper cup. Mira. She looked different, smaller somehow, or maybe just quieter. When she turned, she saw me instantly. No surprise. Just a small breath leaving her, like she'd been expecting this to happen eventually. You left the thermos, she said. So did you, I replied. She almost smiled. I figured it should stay here. Neutral ground. We stood there for a while, neither sitting, neither walking away. She was wearing the same scarf I remembered, the one with frayed edges. Her hands were tucked into her coat sleeves, trembling slightly, from the cold or something else. Where'd you go? I asked finally. Nowhere far, she said. Just needed to stop pretending the quiet didn't hurt. I nodded. That I understood. She looked past me, toward the trees, her voice barely above a whisper. I sold the house, moved into a smaller place, less to carry. Did it help? Some days. She exhaled soft and even. Most days, I still make 2 cups of tea out of habit. That landed like truth, not dramatic, just sat in the way only honesty can be. We finally sat. The same distance as before, enough space for reason, not enough for comfort. I wanted to ask why she left without saying goodbye. I wanted to ask if she missed me. But what came out was, I kept thinking you'd come back. I did, she said quietly. Just easy not to stay. The park lights flickered on one by one. The world dimmed around us. Mira, I said, then stopped. My throat closed on her name. She turned waiting. I thought it was just routine. I said, but you became the part of the day I looked forward to most. Her eyes softened. Not pity, right? No, she said. I did the same mistake. She reached for the thermos between us, brushing my hand by accident, or maybe not. Neither of us pulled away this time. I kept thinking, she said, voice shaking slightly, that what we had wasn't love. It was understanding. The kind you don't find twice. Maybe that's what love is, I said. She laughed once. Broken, small. Don't make it harder. I'm not trying to. We sat there in the cold, steam rising faintly from the paper cup she'd brought. After a long silence, she looked at me. I don't know what happens next. Neither do I. Then maybe that's okay, she said. The wind shifted again. She smiled. Not the first kind she gave me, the polite one. This was smaller, realer. The kind people when something finally stops hurting. When we stood, I reached out. She hesitated, then let my hand rest against hers. Just once. Okay, she whispered. And for the first time it was enough. By the time spring came, the bench looked different. The paint was chipped again, and someone had carved initials into the side. But every morning around 8:47 there were still 2 cups. One black coffee, one tea cooling too fast in the wind. We didn't plan it that way. It just became what mornings were again. Mira moved into an apartment closer to the river. Smaller kitchen, single window, no yard. But it suited her. She said she liked the sound of the city waking up. It reminds me I'm still part of something, she told me once, pouring tea into that same dented thermos. I started helping her unpack on weekends. She'd hum sometimes, tunelessly, while I fixed a loose shelf or tried to make her old radio work. We didn't talk much about before. There was no need. The silence between us had changed shape. It wasn't heavy anymore. It just existed, like background music you eventually learn to hum along to. One Saturday, I caught her staring out the window, cup in hand, hair pulled back the way it always used to fall loose. What are you thinking? I asked. That I never thought peace would look like this, she said. Her voice had that faint edge again, the one between gratitude and disbelief. I smiled, tracing the rim of my cup. Wes, we wore the noise out of it. She laughed, shaking her head. Don't romanticize it. It's just ordinary. That's what makes it good. Sometimes we still walked to the park, sat on the same bench where everything had nearly happened. Or maybe already had, just quietly. We never spoke about the doctor, or the night she disappeared, or the questions we almost asked. But sometimes she'd glance at me, a small smile playing on her lips, like a secret she no longer needed to keep. That was enough. One morning she handed me my coffee, fingers brushing mine. Do you still see him? She asked, meaning the doctor. Sometimes, I said. He keeps telling me to slow down. She raised an eyebrow. And do you? I looked at her, the sunlight cutting across her face, softening everything time hadn't. Not when I'm with you. She didn't answer. Just leaned back on the bench, closing her eyes, breathing in the faint smell of coffee and rain. Later, when she left for work, she turned at the corner, lifting the thermos slightly, a small, wordless wave. I stayed on the bench until the minute hand hit 18:47, just listening, pigeons, the hiss of the city, a memory refilling itself. It wasn't perfect. And in that quiet, I finally understood what she meant the first time she said it. That sometimes, being seen is the cure.